So hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Doug Welsby, and also joining me is my coworker, Aaron Harklerode, also from Microsoft. Today we'll be telling you more about Microsoft and our offerings, but later in this presentation, as we'll start with today's topic, Effective PPM with Microsoft Project Online. We'll be providing an overview of Microsoft Project Online and how this solution can provide significant value and improvements to organizational and project performance. We'll also demonstrate Project Online's end-to-end capabilities and how it can be extended to support a unified work management experience supporting all forms of project execution such as waterfall, agile, and others. Before we get started, we have a few quick logistics items to cover off with you. First off, we will not be opening the phone line for questions, and all lines will be muted during the webinar. However, we will try to answer questions submitted in the chat panel. Also, at the end of the presentation, we will be providing our email addresses, so feel free to email us directly, and we'll be sure to respond. Finally, if you're unable to stay for the entire webinar, we are recording this presentation and we'll be distributing the entire recording to all registrants, as well as posting this to our Microsoft on-demand webinar website. And with that, let's get started with Effective PPM with Microsoft Project Online. Let's start with a portfolio management overview. So what exactly is the definition of portfolio management? Well, portfolio and project management, or PPM, is the practice of identifying, selecting, and managing a portfolio of projects that align to strategic objectives and honor budget and resource constraints. This means end-to-end lifecycle of projects from their inception as an idea or proposal right through to the successful delivery of the project's stated outcomes and deliverables. It's the capture of the anticipated costs and return on investment, perhaps in a business case, and the subsequent prioritization and selection of a portfolio of projects to be delivered. And finally, the delivery of the projects with clear visibility and communication throughout the delivery process. PPM has always been important. This is not a new concept, but it has become increasingly important to have effective PPM processes in order to remain competitive in this rapidly changing world. And let's face it, the world is changing. Some of you might suggest that the today image of these New York yellow cabs should include Uber vehicles, and of course before long even self-driving Uber vehicles. In the past we were used to long product cycles, but today we have rapid innovation. This is prevalent everywhere, but in particular in the software industry with software delivered via the cloud. Microsoft previously released new versions of software on a 3-year development cycle, but now with software as a service, new features are released with an ongoing and rapid cadence. Email is rapidly being replaced with collaboration tools such as Facebook in our personal lives and Yammer at work. And most of us have spent time commuting to and working in an office, but now many of us avoid that commute and work from a home office. And finally, the volume of information available to us has exploded, in particular as we deliver projects, programs, and portfolios. We now have data and insights into all aspects of projects and are able to make better decisions based on big data. So not only is our world changing, but constant change is the new normal. The new normal in business is disruption and change. Companies and leaders have to constantly adapt and reinvent themselves. Success now requires not just doing it better, but mastering the ability to do it differently and to react quickly in this dynamic and unpredictable new world. In addition, we've all experienced the consumerization of the workplace. Like it or not, people expect to get results now. It's a new world that's forced us to rethink how we deploy technology solutions. So really, smart innovation is the key. Innovation is crucial to the continuing success of any organization, and yet a large percentage of companies don't have and innovation strategy, meaning a process through which ideas can be gathered in a systematic way. Organizations that do have a strategy in place and are highly innovative achieve higher growth over a 5-year period. However, innovation and idea capture is just the start, after which we need to move on to developing the business case for these proposals, which is where the concept of alignment comes to the forefront. For most organizations, projects are only worth approving if they align with corporate or strategic goals, yet 68% of organizations don't do this. So what's the benefit of being highly aligned? 17% higher growth rate over a 5-year period. And following approval, we move on to project execution. And this is where a large number of projects fail in one way or another due to poor communication, while organizations that have effective ways in which to increase communication and collaboration see a 17% increase in projects being completed on budget. These SMART innovation objectives can be met with the adoption of appropriate PPM tools and processes. Note that I said processes and tools. It's not just about the tool. You can't hand someone a wrench and expect them to become a mechanic without proper training, guidance, and processes to follow. So don't expect a PPM tool such as Project Online to address your SMART innovation and PPM objectives without training and a carefully developed process in place. And these organizational pains also trickle down to individual project managers. Without a clearly defined set of processes in place, project managers will struggle with successful delivery, or with disparate systems, one for scheduling, another for resource management, and another for finance tracking, all disjointed. The task becomes overwhelming and frustrating. So this is where Microsoft's PPM solution can bring significant value to your organization. Project Online offers a comprehensive set of project and portfolio management capabilities. This end-to-end PPM solution delivers a holistic set of capabilities to ensure that organizations select the right projects and can execute them to perfection. As Aaron takes us through a demonstration of Project Online, look for him to show us some of these key concepts, including portfolio management, project management, resource management, and project collaboration. So think of Project Online as the solution addressing the end-to-end life cycle of project and portfolio management, from intake to delivery and all of the processes in between, all within a cohesive solution and not separate, disparate tools and systems. Think of Project Online as a hub of information for all of your project management needs. Project Online is delivered as a solution within the Office 365 family of products. If your organization has not already invested in Office 365, Project Online can easily become the first Office 365 product that you adopt. It's built on the same reliable cloud infrastructure that Office 365 is and sits alongside email, document and data management, telephony, and other fully integrated cloud software as a service solutions. Before we turn things over to Aaron for a demonstration, I'll mention that adoption of a Project Online solution does not mean that your organization is limited in its choice of tools or processes for project and task delivery. Microsoft's Project Connect application integrates those tools used for waterfall and agile approaches, offering a bimodal project management solution. Whether your organization uses Visual Studio, Jira, or other agile tools, we have a solution to integrate this bimodal environment. And with new, simple-to-use, lightweight task management tools being introduced at a rapid pace, Project Connect and Microsoft's rapid innovation capabilities will keep you connected. And with that, I'd like to turn things over to Aaron, who will take us through a deep dive into project and portfolio management with Project Online. Aaron, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Doug. And if you would just kind of give me a confirmation that I am now sharing my screen and you're able to see that, I'll go ahead and get started.
we're good to go. Thank you.
Great, thank you, thank you. So as Doug mentioned, I'm going to show you within Project Online sort of an end-to-end solution. I will touch on features in here that are relevant to project managers, portfolio managers, resource managers, team members working on a project. So I'll be wearing a few different hats during this demo, and I'll point out when I'm sort of switching roles or switching hats as I walk through this end-to-end solution. So what you're looking at here is I'm in the project center of a Project Online environment. Doug did point out that Project Online is part of Office 365. When I click on what's referred to as the waffle up top, you can see that I do have access to the other Office 365 applications. But in this demo, I'm going to focus on the features of Project Online. In the Project Center, that is where users who have access to this environment, mainly PMs, program managers, portfolio owners, would go to view the projects that they have access to. You can construct different views. So as you're seeing the way I have the view set up right here, I'm able to view projects across different states. I can see the requested projects, approved, in progress. I can see some KPI details. Over on the right of my screen, I can see a high-level Gantt and see which projects are overlapping within my portfolio. So from an intake perspective, so if we wanted to get some ideas or proposals into this environment, one of the innovative ways we can do it is by using a request list or a project intake list. So I'm going to navigate over to a list I have here called requests. So you can provide access to specific people to go in here and present their ideas for projects, which can then be evaluated by a team. You can incorporate workflows into this. So for instance, if finance and or legal had to review any of these before they could potentially be turned into a project, you could enable those features. If I give you a quick glimpse of an item that's already been entered in here, you can see that I can enter in some prioritization information. So strategic alignment, whether or not this proposed project is going to help us to lower costs or improve employee retention. I can list out benefits, so quarterly, annually benefits. And when I am done submitting this item, I can come back here. We can take a look at the whole list of requests that other users have made in here. I can enable SharePoint features such as the voting buttons here so people can apply a rating to it. I can switch over to a more edit-friendly view here where I can change some of these values. So if I am one of the review board members, let's say, that's evaluating which of these new entries might turn into a project, I can come in here, and if I don't agree with any of the submissions that were in here, like for instance, this might be more of a low risk submission here. Okay, I can change that and it will recalculate prioritization scores. And when I'm ready, again, I can either programmatically through a workflow or I can manually convert these intake items into projects. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate back over to the Project Center. And kind of going through, end-to-end life cycle here. Let's start with a project that was just recently converted from that idea list here. So I have a handful of requested projects. So I'm going to go into this social network integration project. So it's sort of a brand new project. It's not in flight yet. But what I want to do with this is I want to, build out the business case. I want to model the resource demand for this particular project. And I want to provide, whatever type of cost planning or financial planning are necessary so that I can evaluate this project along with my other projects in the portfolio using the portfolio analysis tool and see how well this maps with other projects. Do I have enough resources to take on this project, etc. So kind of stepping down through it here, if I take a look at the schedule, one of the things I can do is for early planning of a project. Now I can edit the schedule in the web interface here, but I can also, on the task menu here, I can select to edit this in Microsoft Project Pro. So generally your PMs would have the Microsoft Project Professional application. So I have this same exact project here opened up in Project Pro. And what I'm looking at here is sort of a resource plan view. So again, for early planning of the project, I'm probably not going to get into the nitty-gritty of a real detailed work breakdown structure yet. But what I might need to do in order for this thing to be analyzed is model my resource demand at a high level. So you can see I have different generic roles in here. And what I might want to do from this point is submit some engagement requests for some of these roles that I'm going to need early on in the project. So the way the engagement feature works here, okay, is I can plug in an engagement request for any of the resources that are on my team. So I'll switch this over to business analyst, specify why I need this type of resource. So I need this business analyst to gather requirements. Okay, plug in the start and the finish dates for this. So I'll go a few months out here on this. And in terms of, how many business analysts I need, I can either use FTE equivalents here. So if I need one BA, leave it at 100%. If I need, what I suspect is probably about 3 business analysts, bump it up to 300%. Or if I have a pretty good estimate of the actual amount of work that I need that role for, I can plug in hours in here. Okay. And when I'm ready to save this request, okay, what it'll do is it will plug in the engagement details right below the role here, as you can see. So I'm just going to scroll my screen so I can see. So over the time period that I've saved this engagement request, I'm kind of treat this like an online Excel spreadsheet. So if I wanted to contour this this work a little bit for the business analyst, maybe I don't need them full time in that first month. They're going to ramp up at 50%, and then I'll need basically an FTE for several months, and then towards the end they can kind of ramp down to 75%. When I am satisfied with this engagement request that I'm making, what I can do is I can submit all of the engagement requests that I have on the screen or selected ones here. And what that will do is it will route to a resource manager. Optional capabilities, you can have email turned on so that the resource manager gets an email alert when this happens. And to sort of switch hats relatively quickly here and show you what it would look like as a resource manager receiving one of those engagement requests for, for either a role in that case or for specific resources. I've navigated over to the resource center here where the enterprise resource pool exists. So all the resources that are configured in this environment are here. And I'm going to take a look at the resource requests that have been made. So again, if I had the email alerts turned on, I would get an email that would link me basically right to this page here, where I can come in and, assuming that I'm the line manager or the functional manager for the BAs, I can come in, I can see which members of the team already have some committed assignments, which members of the team have some engagement requests that have been submitted but have not yet been accepted or approved. Okay, and what I can do here is I can use the capacity planning modules to see, okay, which of my BAs actually have some bandwidth to satisfy the request that the PM's making on that project. So if I open up the capacity planning page here, I can take a look at this in a couple of different ways. I come in here, you see a heat map where from a heat map perspective, I can see which users are over allocated, under allocated, or sort of, hitting the sweet spot of being, allocated, close to, but not over 100%. So green means they're well allocated, red means they're over allocated, blue means they have a little bit of bandwidth. Okay. I can also take a look at this in terms of like, a bar graph or, other ways to figure out who has the most capacity for satisfying that request. And when I have made a decision of who I want to satisfy that engagement request, I can come back here and I can accept that engagement request as is, or I can edit it and replace the role with a named resource like Amy Albert. Okay, submit it. And then coming back, what the PM would actually see is they would get an alert letting them know that one or more of the engagement requests have been approved on their schedule. And so now the PM can kind of continue on planning out the, the more detailed work breakdown within that project schedule. The other thing I want to do on this project, the social network integration project, in order to get it ready for to be a candidate for the portfolio analysis, is do a little bit of financial planning for it as well. So a couple different ways you could approach this. So I could do a very bottoms-up, assessment of what it's going to take to what it's going to cost to do this project by building out my schedule, assigning roles or assigning resources to it. Those resources will have rates, and let this sort of calculate from a bottom up what the overall cost of doing this project is. That can be a little tedious, requires a lot of discipline within your PMs. Another way you could do it is we have a cost planner tool that allows you to do very top-down planning of cost for your project. So back over here in the project center, I'm going to launch cost planner for this social network integration project. Okay, and with our cost planner tool, what you can do is you can configure, you can keep it very high level. So if you just needed to say, look, I need to plan OpEx and CapEx for this project total, you can keep it very high level like that. Or you can define categories a little bit more granularly here. So I have a few CapEx categories: equipment, software, capitalized labor. I have a few OpEx categories, and I can even break it down into time phase. So when actually I'm going to need these budgets in order to pull this project off. And of course, again, this is like an online Excel spreadsheet. So as I enter some figures in here, it will total for the whole project, okay, what the cost estimate is for doing this project. And I can save this for reporting purposes. So, I can show this in a report, or this can be consumed by the portfolio analysis tool. So let me go ahead and bounce back over here. And now that I have this project with the resource demand modeled, and I have the cost estimates plugged into here, okay, this project, along with perhaps several other projects, so if I do navigate back to the project center here, I have a few projects that are, kind of in the requested stage, but they haven't been approved yet. So using the portfolio analysis tool in here can be a good way to assess, which projects are really meeting the strategic value, and which projects do we have resources to do, which projects do we have budget to do. So let me navigate over to the portfolio analysis tool. Okay, and I have an analysis that's already been set up in here, so I'm just going to go ahead and access this. It has all of those projects you were just looking at already incorporated into the analysis. Okay, so the way this works, when you are going through the portfolio analysis module here, you can analyze an overall top to bottom priority. So if I go to the review priority screen, I can see what the top to bottom prioritization of these projects are based on the driver scores that were submitted for them. I can also see that on this screen that I'm on here. In addition, the cost screen that I'm on here shows me a bucket of selected projects and also a bucket of unselected projects. And from here, I can do some what-if analysis, like, okay, given an overall budget of 4 million, it's telling me that I can do 14 of my, overall 20 or 21 projects that I'm analyzing here. But perhaps if I could spend a little bit more on this and up it to 5 million, okay, that added a couple new projects to the mix. I'm up to 16. You have a lot of flexibility with this. So again, the projects that are unselected here, it's telling you that these are the less preferable projects to do based on a combination of what their strategic value is and also what their cost is. Now, of course, if I need to override this because some of these might be compliance projects or anything, I can force any of these unselected ones in, force any of the selected ones out in order to try to get a good balance of the portfolio. Okay. On the same token, I can also, from a resource demand perspective, if I navigate over to the Analyze Resources screen here, take a look within this selection of projects or within this portfolio that I'm analyzing here, which of these projects do I actually have enough bandwidth in my resource pool to take on in this time frame? So attacking it from this angle here, I can see there's really about 10 projects, okay, given the budget constraint that you've imposed, that you could do given the resources that you have. And I see that there's a handful of unselected projects here. And if I want to peel back the layers a little bit, I can take a look at a requirements detail screen. So that's going to tell me for these unselected projects where I have some deficiencies. So I might not have enough of, for instance, a BA role. Let me collapse the selected and take a look here. So anything you see here in red in the grid, that's a role that has a little bit of a deficiency in that particular time period. Okay. So what I can do with that, if I'm trying to, kind of get the optimum balance of projects in my portfolio, is I can come over here and, one of the things I can do is I can move projects around a little bit. So maybe, since these two projects are competing for the same resources, I could just start one of these a little bit later. That's one option. Another option is if you hire resources. So you can configure this to either take a number in FTE terms. So if I hired 6, FTEs of the types of roles that I needed, or I could switch an option if you were targeting mostly contract employees, you could put in a dollar figure, like 200,000. But when I do that and recalculate this, that's going to allow me to determine, okay, if you did hire, say 6 resources, that's going to add 3 new projects to the mix. Okay, and if you take a look, we have a report here called the Hired Resource Report that would tell me exactly what types of resources I would need to hire and for what time frame. And if I'm happy with this portfolio selection, another thing that I can actually do here is there's this commit option that will commit this. That could be consumed by a governance workflow, hypothetically speaking, that could then say, okay, that's automatically now going to move these 10 projects, any of them that were in, so if I navigate back to my project center here, any of them that were in that, early just requested phase, if they were committed in that portfolio analysis selection, they can go ahead and move forward into the approve phase. And now you can start doing a little bit of execution planning and start working on the finer details of that project. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into a project that is a little further along in its life cycle. I'm going to go into this VO IP phones project here, okay, and show you some of the execution capabilities that you have in here. So switching my hat from a portfolio analyst, which I was just wearing to do that analysis, sort of back to a project manager now that this project is in execution and I need to do a little bit more details around it. I can come in here, and now, depending upon the template type that was used to build this project, you can see here I have sort of a very waterfall schedule that was set up in here. If you're doing more agile methodology, or Scrum for your project management methodology, I'll give you a glimpse of how that might work in the tool in a little bit here. Okay, but what I can now go in is start to do things like replace those generic roles with actual named resources and do some hard commitments on this. In addition, from a collaboration standpoint, this project now has a project site now that it's been approved, so I can do things like upload documents or start to do things like track risks and issues, change requests, okay, and reporting on the project. And one of the nice features we have with our Project Plus tool is the ability, I'm going to navigate to this risks page here, the ability to show you project site information right here on a project details page. So I don't have to bounce back and forth between the project site for this project just to do something like log a new risk for this, or to review the risks that have already been logged. Okay, so what you're looking at here is a roll-up of all the risks that have already been logged on this project, and I can get to them very quickly and easily right from the project center, one click away. Same thing with issues, same thing with change requests. And sort of continuing with my PM hat on now, so as I am doing things like assigning risks and issues to people as they are getting observed, hopefully those risks and issues are getting mitigated, or we got workarounds for them, or they're getting closed out. I'm also going to report just high-level status on the project at whatever cadence you normally do. Most organizations it's weekly, but we have a project status updates form where the PM can go in, fill in high-level information here. So for instance, what were the key accomplishments in this period? What were some of the upcoming tasks that we have for next period? Any open issues or concerns? So in addition to anything that might be in the issues list, is there something that I really want to bring to the attention of maybe a sponsor or an executive when I do my status reporting? I can plug in here. Okay, and from there I'm going to navigate to this on-demand project status report. So this is one of the components of our Project Plus tool set. So this project status report, what it does is on demand it compiles details from the schedule, the active risks and issues, some project enterprise fields, the KPI details on this project, so what's our overall health, what's our schedule health, things like that, and gives it to you in a nice one-page format which can be exported, printed, things like that. So I can see some field details at the top, see my KPIs. In the middle here, there's my project status summary with my key accomplishments and upcoming tasks. Then I've got a lot of schedule details in here, so any upcoming milestones, late tasks, along with active risks and issues at the bottom. And you might be thinking, okay, great for a waterfall project, but what if you are using Agile? So we have an in-band Agile tool that allows you to manage your projects right in Project Online. So an example of how that might work. Here is a different project that I'm on right now called New Expense Reporting Application, and this one is set up with the Agile framework. So what we have in terms of project details here is we have our backlog, estimation board, priority manager. So you can use Agile terms, Agile tools, Agile methodologies as opposed to a waterfall to manage this. So I can see my sprint schedule laid out here, but if I want to go down and put some stories in the product backlog, I've got a page where I can come in here, add some items to the project backlog, or excuse me, product backlog. You see, I can see the priority, which release each of these stories is scheduled for, what the effort is. And in terms of managing these, okay, I have lots of visual controls that I can use. For instance, an estimation board here that allows me to size the backlog. Okay, so if I say, well, okay, that's probably more of a medium effort, I can take one of these items and I can, drag it from one column to the next. If I need to prioritize these, I can change the priority order of these by dragging ones back and forth. Okay, if I'm doing a little bit of Kanban in this, I can go over to my task board. And so for the actual work items, bugs, work items, code, things that the development team might be working on, I can come over here and I can, use Kanban to say, okay, this to-do is now in process. So we actually have somebody doing some code on that. And the expense report approval, I'm going to move that over to the to verify. Okay, and if I need to edit the underlying details of any of these items, put in some effort estimates. Okay, or if I need to update the actuals on this, I can do that right in this interface as well. And under the scenes, what that is doing is it's updating the actual task list itself, which in turn is updating the schedule of this, so I can report all within Project Online on details of this project right alongside all the other waterfall projects in my portfolio. So a little bit of bimodal operation. Okay. And now if you are already using some other tool for work management, so perhaps you're using Jira or VSTS or something else, we also have capabilities Doug mentioned earlier through our Project Connect tool. Okay. We can integrate with those other platforms and pull details so that, again, in Project Online, we can do our portfolio level reporting and our portfolio level planning, but we can do our work management in other platforms. So you'll notice here, if I take one of these projects and let's say that I'm actually doing the work management in VSTS, okay, or this project already exists in Jira, and the team is doing their updates in there, and I want to roll that information back into here so that I can take a look at time submissions and stuff like that. We have those capabilities as well. We have an upcoming webinar in Agile, Scaled Agile Framework that's going to dive into a little bit more detail on that, so I'll sort of leave that for that webinar. But now that I have this project in execution, I'm sort of updating status. The team members on projects can also do some updating as well. So switching hats here, if I'm, let's say, a developer on one of these project teams, and I need to do something like submit a status update for some work, or fill in a timesheet, give you kind of a quick glimpse of what those interfaces look like. So when I come over here to the My Work page, so again, sort of switching hats to a team member of a project, I can go to the My Work page and I can update, I can see the projects where I'm assigned, I can see the tasks within those projects, and I can come in here and update the % complete on these. So I can very high level just let the PM know how far along I am on these tasks, and I can submit this. Or if you're doing a little bit more structured timesheet submission, you can do that as well. So I can fill in a timesheet. Generally, it's a weekly type basis where I can go in here and say I spent 4 hours on this task, 5 hours on this task. You can even log non-project work in the timesheet, okay, and submit this as well. And in both of these cases, the details from a timesheet and or a task page, it will route to, eventually it route to the PM of the project, where, switching hats now back to a project manager, I could go into the approval center here, take a look at some time that a resource has submitted. Okay, so for instance, I can see Steve submitted some time against this sales forecast in my e-commerce portal development project. So I can select that. I can do this preview update button here that's going to let me know how it impacts the schedule. And if I'm okay with that, I can accept right from here. And so whatever % complete he's saying this is, or whatever hours he's plugging in here, it'll actually recalculate within the schedule. It will add actual work on my project. It'll update the % complete. And so I can have that dynamically flowing between the team members and the PM. So no longer do I have to email my team members, ask them, how far along are you on this? And then I'm doing all the updates of progress in my project as a PM. So now from here, so now you've kind of got a glimpse of, getting projects into the system, intake, getting projects through analysis and into execution. You've got lots of in-flight projects here. From more of a portfolio management perspective, you want to take a look at not just individual project details, but take a look at information across a portfolio or across a program. I'm going to dive into some reports and dashboards that we have as part of our Project Plus tool set here. So one example is our portfolio dashboard. Okay, so what you're looking at here is a dashboard that shows me all of the projects across all the different portfolios. If I want to narrow down to specific portfolios, I can come in here and do that. So for instance, if I just wanted to focus on the service portfolio, I could click on that slice in the pie, okay? And that will narrow the other charts on the page here and show me what types of projects I'm doing within that portfolio, what the health values of them are, okay? If I pop that back in, it updates the other graphs as well. So now I can see across all the portfolios, I've got some projects in various phases, various health values. And not only is this a tool to to take a look at high-level project details within a portfolio or a program, but I can also use this to kind of dive into some lower-level details as well. So a use case for this might be, in the table down below, I can see, again, all the projects that are grouped by different departments. I can see who's running them, the phase that they're in, etc. So a use case for this might be, let me just focus on the IT department's projects. Okay, and imagine I'm doing a sort of a portfolio review within IT. Okay, and I want to start by focusing maybe on my underperforming projects. So after filtering down on department, I can also filter down. I see that there's no reds here, but I can pick yellow, drill down to the yellow projects. Now that I have that, I can basically treat this as a report and export this, print it, things like that. But like I said earlier, I can also use this as a launch pad to dive into some more details. So within this portfolio dashboard here, and now that I'm looking at just my underperforming projects, I want to figure out why are we showing a yellow schedule KPI on that. So I've got some links within here that can take me to, for instance, this one will open up the project schedule and it opens it on a separate tab. Okay. So I can dive down into the details, figure out where I start to have some slipping tasks in the schedule. Okay. Or I can launch the project status report by clicking on that icon. Or I can click on the project name itself, and that's a configurable option that could take you to the project site if you needed to track down some, some document artifacts, or it could take you to maybe a budget page if you needed to take a look at the budget details, things like that. So there's, one example of, looking across a portfolio and managing a portfolio of projects through one of our dashboards. From more of an enterprise planning perspective and sort of switching focus over to resources, imagine a different scenario where we without necessarily going through the rigor of a full portfolio analysis, I would like to see if we were going to entertain the thoughts of maybe doing 3 or 4 new projects at the beginning of next quarter, do we have bandwidth to take on those projects? Do we have enough resources to do those projects? So I've got a separate report here, which is called the role capacity analysis, that might fulfill a need like that. So for example, the types of projects that I'm describing, we've done projects like them before, and we know that up front what we're primarily going to need is we're going to need a fair amount of BA hours, and we're going to need some DBAs to do a little bit of planning as well, maybe some architecture planning, stuff like that. Okay, so pick the roles that you want to evaluate, start date, end date, okay? Hit the button here, and what it's doing now is it's querying all of the projects that are out there. We've got resources that are assigned work in those projects. We've got engagement requests that have been made. We've got details that could also have been fed in from another system like Jira or VSTS like you've seen. And what I'm able to do with this is aggregate all those individual resource details into whatever role those resources map to and analyze this at a role level. So for instance, if, let's say June was the beginning of the next quarter and we need, I'll filter out DBA in this, but we need our BAs primarily up front, I can see how close to capacity we are within that role in each of these time periods here, June, July, August, pop DBA back into the mix and maybe filter out business analysts, and I can see on an individual role basis how close to capacity we are. Plus in the table down below, I can see which projects those roles are working on and also take a look at their utilization percentages down here as well. So in terms of something like enterprise planning or long-range planning, our role capacity reports and our resource capacity reports be very useful in that regard. Sort of switching gears here a little bit, but staying within the the business intelligence and the reporting realm of what you can do within Project Online. Power BI is Microsoft's cloud-based business intelligence platform, and I'm going to navigate over. I'm already signed into Power BI in this environment. Power BI can be used to build very rich reports and dashboards against Project Online data as well. So I'm going to show you a few examples of different reports that we have as part of our Power BI report pack. Okay, so I'll start by going in. You can see a list of dashboards that I have access to and a list of reports. I'm going to go down to a report here called Project Portfolio Status. Okay, and in this Power BI report, what I can see is I can see some details of the projects within each of the portfolios. I can see the state that they're in. I can see some KPI measures. Scroll to the right here a little bit. I can see if we have any schedule or cost variance, so I can see how well the planning was done on them. If we've got some high variance values in there, I can see whether we're running over in terms of cost, or if we didn't do very good planning with the schedule. I can track that information down in here. I can apply some filters to this as well. So if I go over to the filter area here, and if I wanted to narrow this down to look at, just say a specific portfolio like the cut cost portfolio, okay, I could add that as a filter. Or if I wanted to filter again on just say my underperforming projects, okay, I could pick my overall status field and filter in, okay, on red or yellow values within there. And you'll notice at the bottom also that I have multiple pages. So beyond the summary, I've got some schedule details in this particular portfolio status report. So I can see, again, across multiple portfolios, okay, diving into a little bit more specifically how we're looking with the schedule. Okay, if I want to see a visual Gantt of these, okay, I've got a visual Gantt that shows me, the overall planned duration of the project. It also shows me, okay, within the bar, how far along, or if I hover over the bar, % complete on that. I've got some summary details for cost. Okay. And I also have work and cost by time. So if I wanted to, take a look at either work or cost by time, so I can see the quarterly costs, okay, of all the projects rolled up within the portfolio that I've selected. And again, if I wanted to narrow down on a particular portfolio or a particular, type of project, so again, going back to just the cut cost portfolio, I can filter in on that. And if I want to step down into a little bit more detail, I'm looking at quarters here, but if I wanted to take a look at, say monthly breakdown, I can step down into that as well. From here, I'm going to bounce over to a different report. We have one in here called the Portfolio Status Trend Report. And the neat thing about this is this leverages our snapshot feature. Okay, so some of the same information is in here. So again, I can see KPI details. I can see when the projects are slated to start and finish. I can see, across the portfolios, how many projects we have at risk, how many are over budget. But the nice thing about this one is it also incorporates time phase analysis into it as well. So again, using our snapshot capabilities, I can take a look, well, okay, great. I can see that in, the current quarter, maybe we're at 3 or 4 at-risk projects, but are we trending positively or are we actually getting worse from the previous quarter? So I can take a look at quarter 1, see what everything looked like then, quarter 2. I can even take a look across multiple quarters. So if I drag this across a couple different quarters, so I can see not just the summary report, but any of the sub-reports that we have in here. So again, if I want to focus specifically on costs and, how well did we do with our forecasting of costs of all these projects, I can take a look and again see, okay, so several quarters back, I can see that this e-commerce portal development had a 201,000 cost variance, and then it got a little bit better, 150,000, and then in quarter 3, it got a little bit better still, 125,000. So we still have some variance on that. We're still a little bit over for where we were with our initial estimates, but we've been able to sort of harness that a little bit and get it a little bit closer to where it should be. So I can see, through, again, through analyzing all of the details in here that our snapshots collect, I can do some trend analysis with these projects. One of the neat features in Power BI that not a lot of people are aware of also is you have the ability on any of these reports to pin the visualizations to a dashboard. So for instance, if this cost status is something that I would like to see, pretty much every time I come in here, I want to have this at my fingertips. So maybe I'm in part of finance, and I need to take a look across specific portfolios or across all the portfolios, how we're doing from a budget standpoint and from a forecast accuracy standpoint. So think of sort of like a Pinterest, if you will, within Power BI. So I can take any of these visualizations that I see on a report, hit the push pin button, and I can pin it to one of my existing dashboards, or I can pin it to a new dashboard. Okay, so in this one, I'll go ahead and pin it to my Z Trends dashboard. It's a dashboard that I have set up. Okay, and over here underneath my workspace, I can see all the dashboards that exist. So again, some of these are part of our Power BI report pack, but you can also create your own dashboards quickly and easily. So on this Z Trends dashboard, so imagine if you would, when I come in here, I typically go straight to my trending dashboard so that I can dive into my overall trend analysis of schedule, cost, issue, okay, work, and then overall. And if I go back here, I can take a look at, again, so I like to do those snapshot analysis. So I can go back to, the cost analysis, back to my cost summary here, take a look at how we were trending. Okay. There are a few other sub-pages that, that I didn't show you in here, but I've got a comparison here in a bubble chart between schedule performance index and cost performance index. So, we want to try to be tracking as close to 1 on all of those as possible. I hover over these different bubbles, okay, and I can see, how they are doing in terms of their schedule performance or their cost performance, see some underlying details on them, see the budget information, etc. Okay. In addition, another feature that you can leverage within Power BI is the ability to subscribe via email to reports, so that if the underlying data changes for a report, you can get an email sent out to you letting you know that there's been some data updates on here, and also in the email you'll have a link to take you directly to the report. So you can, so to speak, have these reports delivered right to your doorstep. Another really neat feature in here is the natural language query as well. So, filters are great. Over here, you can select filters very easily. If I wanted to, just select all the projects that Daniel Williams owned, or again, just the projects that are, performing in the green, filter out the underperforming projects. That's neat. But the natural language query, so if I go to a dashboard here, I'm going to pull up this project portfolio dashboard, allows you to basically query your data in regular sort of language format. So if I say, hey, I want you to show me the average work variance by project name. Now, if you start to get close on this to to keywords that actually that work, it'll start to give you some tips. Okay. And it will, eventually, as it does its query here, okay, provided that you don't have typos and you are, entering in details like work variance and project name that are within the system here, okay, you can also do this natural language query to find the information within your reports and also pin this as well. If I want to see this presented more as a pie chart as opposed to a column chart, okay, I can change that. And again, if this is the type of thing, so all right, I like this pie chart of my work variance in the projects and I want to pin that to one of my dashboards. Again, I can just pin this to my dashboard and this will be at my fingertips every time I come back in here. So I won't have to type in that natural language query again and again. Okay. And one final thing that I'm going to show you within Power BI here, very neat feature, relatively new, is imagine that you're a project manager. Okay, and you've done project status reporting, so whether it's in Power BI or you've sort of done a lot of copying and pasting of stuff from various areas. A lot of times, PMs will present our status information in PowerPoint. So we have a PowerPoint deck that we might need to show to a sponsor, or a PowerPoint deck that we might need to show to the program manager for the project that I'm running within his or her program. Okay, so imagine if you would that we have this project status information in Power BI. So an example of this, I've got the project summary, I've got the schedule details, again, I've got the cost summary, the work summary. So any and or all of the pieces of this report, if I wanted to have this naturally embedded into a PowerPoint deck, okay, so that all I would have to do is open up my PowerPoint deck and this report is in there with the data refreshed, we actually have those capabilities now. So in PowerPoint, I'll show you, exactly how easy it is. So in PowerPoint, you can insert from the store. There is a Power BI tile application that you can add into PowerPoint. Okay. So if you add in the Power BI tiles, okay, what you can do is you can say, hey, I want to open up one of my reports from Power BI. It will prompt you for your authentication credentials, so you can log into Power BI. You can select the report, and it's essentially going to work sort of like this. So I have one of those that was already set up. So if I, over here in my OneDrive, I've got this PowerPoint deck that has the Power BI live tiles automatically embedded or already embedded into it, I should say. Okay, and worst case scenario, I might need to refresh my login on this, but from week to week, so as I need to present status of my project or projects, okay, to executive sponsors, leadership team, program manager, again, all I would have to do is open the deck, okay, walk through the deck with them, and I've got all of the details from the report automatically and dynamically in here. So with that, hopefully you've seen the value and the robustness that Project Online has for end-to-end solution management, from project intake through project execution, portfolio reporting, etc. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Doug, and he's going to wrap this up.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. That was fantastic. I just want to confirm that you can see my screens.
Affirmative.
Great, thanks. So now that you've started to reimagine productivity with Project Online, let's talk briefly about how Microsoft can help your organizations get up and running quickly so that you can realize value and adopt this strategic approach to project and portfolio management. Microsoft has a great deal of experience, over 20 years, in assisting customers in realizing value with project management solutions. We offer a variety of approaches, ranging from a pre-configured best practices kickstart solution to tailor-made custom consulting and implementation services. We're very proud to be only one of a handful of triple gold Microsoft certified partners. In addition to deployment services, our training and ongoing education offerings ensure that your project managers, resources, and executives know how to use Project Online and the processes we have helped you design. Our eAcademy courses offer ongoing refresher training and education for new employees who need to get up and running rapidly. And if you need support, we offer 24/7 phone support for Project Online and our family of Microsoft applications. As a special offer, please reach out to ask us about our free PPM assessment and roadmap or to obtain a free trial of Project Online. And if you'd like a custom one-on-one demo tailored to your specific questions and business needs, we're here to help. So thank you for your time and attention today. Please take note of these websites and email addresses where you'll find additional information and be able to connect with Aaron and myself. We look forward to hearing from you.
Muted.